Okay, so before we start, I hope I have given some assignment, right? So any update on that? Manish, Rakesh?
Um, no, not done any uh, things, and just I completed the first and second videos. I'm practicing those completed. Yeah, I started the third one from today.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, as last week I was completely not aware, so I'm checking the videos and practicing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So, but see, make sure that tomorrow, if it is getting completed, okay. So
Yeah,
just share your screen and tomorrow maybe you can explain me.
sure,
Okay,
sure,
whatever you have done, let it be. If it is wrong also, that's fine.
sure,
That's
sure. I
not
will do
problem
it.
because then only you can learn, right? Okay, no
Yeah,
problem, Rakesh. You can take some time, okay, and in couple of days at least try to complete it. Okay, fine. What about you, Manish? Update on assignments?
We actually I'm going to start from today onwards because from past 2 weeks I was so engaged in the project work and Saturday Sunday was
Mhm.
also working for me.
Okay.
So actually I want to work on it. I have worked on some in the starting part. You asked me to create some that method like slice and all that. So for
Mhm.
that I have worked, but I couldn't attend the Sunday session due to work and some personal health.
Okay, no, no
I'll
worries.
do this. I'll update you. I'll
Hmm,
try to do it by today.
hmm, hmm. Okay. So whatever time you're getting, right, at least half an hour on the daily basis, yeah, it will work. Okay, but if you're practicing it on 3 to 4 days once, then it won't help because this
Mhm.
is purely technical and it will need some time.
You're
Okay,
right.
just get familiar with all the code syntax and all. Okay, no issues. What about you, Siva?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, Vic, I practiced.
You practiced? Okay. How many?
I
Three
practiced
assignments you have
whatever
given,
you
right?
explained, and I practiced some additional new layouts also.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are they completed?
New one, na?
The three assignments which I have given you, right, in the earlier session, are they completed?
I in that I have completed one. I means remaining. I checked some in SAPUI demo that
Hmm.
toolkit. I have worked on that.
Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, I think I am already
Hello,
sharing.
Avik.
Yes.
Can I share my screen once? Some
Yeah,
details I
yeah,
just
sure, sure. Yeah.
one sec.
That only means what I'm trying, what I'm telling you that before
Hmm.
we start the session, right? Maybe
Can you
you guys can just, we can discuss some problems or issues.
can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, it's visible.
Yeah, actually I just added this one simple thing.
Okay.
First name,
This is
middle
good.
name, and yeah. So in the input field, I tried the placeholder, like
Placeholder,
you
right?
say,
Okay.
placeholder equal to, suppose this is for middle name.
Mm-hmm. Wait. Is your code saved? Yeah,
It
it's
is
saved now.
it's automatically refreshed, right?
Yeah, it will automatically refresh if you're
It is,
making the changes.
yes, but that placeholder is not working here.
Okay. So this is the strange issue.
Is there any
Why
other
placeholder is not appearing?
this property also is not available for input in demo kit.
Okay. 1 second. Wait. Let me check that. Not sure if they have removed or if that property is deprecated. That I don't
Yes,
know. But 1 second. Let me check that. My
yes.
pass as well. So guys, you all have the bus access, right? Okay, for me it's coming. It's
Me?
coming. Yeah, Pinaki. Can you show me once?
Yes. Placeholder for input ID only, na? For input property only.
Yeah, for input only we add it, right? But why it is not coming? That's a strange issue. Because for me, when I added just now only I've added, and it's coming actually.
Is it
Okay, just go to the API reference. I'll tell you. Go to the samples. Yeah, it's already open. Okay, go to the API reference. Yeah, search for input. Okay, that one is your control. Click on it and check in the properties. See, placeholder is there already. Do not use placeholder property as a label.
sorry?
Okay. See, it's available inside input base. Yeah. So now if you go up, can you scroll up? No, you can just select the cursor or something. Yeah, go up.
For properties, right?
Go up, go up. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
If
I'm
it
in
is
the
not available, right, inside the properties, then what you need to do? You need
extend.
to check for the extents. Yeah. If in the input base, you will for sure you will have that property. Can you scroll down here? Properties. Just go to the properties.
Yes, yes.
Scroll down.
Placeholder
See,
is there.
it's there.
But
Okay.
should I add
But
this
why
one?
it is not coming? That's a strange issue. Okay. Do one thing.
SAPUI core control.
Create one new project. Okay. Properly create one more project. Sometimes it will happen that some things will not work, but
Okay.
it should not happen.
That this one I need to use in the top.
No. You don't need to use anything. It's already extending, and that's your core control. Okay. Each and every control will extend from the core, and the core library it's already it's already loaded. Okay. Initially, whenever you load the app.
Okay. Okay, I'll try once more in a new
Yeah,
project.
you try once, you create a new project and you declare one normal input field and then just add placeholder to that
Sure.
input field and
Okay.
let's see whether it's coming or not. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Any other question?
Not questions. I just wanted to know, like, if we press enter, which method we should trigger, and
Okay.
all.
Okay. See, for input, if you go to the input, right? Can you go to the input?
Yes.
Yes. There is a events drop down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just click on it. Okay. So this change when it will be fired. If you remove the focus, okay, then it will be fired. But let's say instead of change, right? You can you click on the left hand side input rather than input base? You can click on input. Yeah. So on right hand side again, yes. So can you see the submit?
Yes.
Click on it. See when it will be fired.
Okay.
This
This event
event
is
is
fired
fired
when
when the user presses enter key on the input. Okay. So
this we will
you
see
have to
next.
use
How
submit.
this we will see next, right? How to handle events.
Events I have already explained, Pinaki.
Yes, you explain like this only, na? For button, suppose we want to do something for press.
Yeah, yes, you need to add that event, and
So
after that
here
provide
in
event handler method name.
in place of handle register, we should use this event,
Submit.
right? Submit. Okay.
Yes. Instead
So
of
automatic
press, you have to use
submit.
instead of means press is also fine,
Yeah.
and you can no in button you don't have to use.
So here
That
in
will work
place
on
of
input field, right?
press.
It is input fields event, not buttons.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
You cannot use like that, okay?
So here for input property.
Yeah, it is for input. So for sure you have to use it on
Okay.
input field, not on the
Okay.
button,
Sure,
because
sure.
button has only one event, that is
Yes,
press.
yes, yes, yes. So automatically here we need to add that submit equal to one method name, and in controller we need to in controller will automatically called on pressing enter.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try that.
Okay, fine. Okay,
Okay.
so uh, okay, guys, any other question you if you have, Manish or Rakesh, you want to?
I don't understand that placeholder part. What was that exact issue? You know, for this,
Placeholder, yes. The thing is, in some cases, I don't know why it is not coming for Pinaki. So that's why if it is not coming, right? If you encounter with these strange issues, what you can do, you can directly delete that project. But generally, it won't happen. Okay, for sure there would be a small mistake, or just create or just redefine that simple form properly. For sure, it will come. I'm also seeing that issue for the first time now. After adding placeholder, the placeholder is not coming. Any CSS you have added, Pinaki?
No, I did
No,
not add
right?
anything.
Okay.
I'll try once more. If not, if it
Yeah, you
doesn't work,
just try once, okay?
yes, yes.
Because see, if you see, this is the XML code in which I have recently added the placeholder. Okay, this is our input field in which I have added the placeholder, and on right hand side, can you see now the placeholder is coming here?
Yes. Have you
Okay.
added anything in the top for this one, or is it is
No, no, no,
working?
nothing, nothing. We don't need to add anything. Because
Okay.
see, placeholder, this is a property of input field. And
Mm-hmm.
input control, it is coming from which library? It's coming
SAP.m.
from SAP.m.
Okay, I'll
So
try.
we don't need to add any extra or something extra to work. Means if you want that placeholder to work, nothing,
Okay. Okay.
no extra code is required. Okay, just check once. Okay, otherwise just delete that simple form or copy that. Just redefine it properly. Okay.
Sure, sure, sure.
Okay, fine. So guys, till now we have seen the basic validations, right? How to add a validations, how to trigger the events, right? And then let's say if the event is triggered, so uh, how we can add that code inside the controller, means just by defining the method or function, right? So far it's clear, guys, that means any questions in that controller part? Okay, if not, if yes, you can tell me, okay? Just at least reply. Don't sit quiet.
Avik, I
Yeah,
have
we,
one doubt that means there is one component controller is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So means it's something. This doubt is something different than what you have explained. So why this component controller has means something is is different from the question. Okay. So
Yes, it's
why this
something.
is main
Mhm.
component? Why it is known as a because we are almost using the same thing in the controller also. Whenever we create a view, we also create a controller simultaneously. So
Mhm.
what is the exact functionality of this component controller? That part I want to understand.
See, the main functionality of the component controller is, sorry, it's not a controller. It's only component.js. Okay, controller is different. If you look at the controller, right? For sure, we need to load this controller library from MVC architecture, right? From MVC. And then from this controller only, it will extend and it will create its subclass. Okay, so it's extending from the controller and it will create a subclass of the base controller. So now what this component.js file will do, when you run your app, right? When you run your app will need all the app configuration, okay? The global app configuration your app will need. So where from which place it will come? It will come from the manifest. So earlier, before 1.20 or 1.30 UI5 version, right? So whatever you see right inside the manifest.json file, whatever content you see this manifest.json file, it was earlier included in component.js. Okay, but now what they have done, they have shifted the global configuration, all the basic and in most important configuration inside the manifest.json file. Okay, so first of all, as soon as your component loads, it will load manifest.json file. And why it is loading? Because, and then why they have shifted? Because manifest.json file, as if you look at the format, right, it is .json. So execution of JSON file, it's faster than execution of JS file. Okay, and when you look at the size of the file, if you compare that file size with the JSON file, so for sure the size of the JSON file is less as compared to JavaScript file. Okay, that's the reason. So for loading the basic configuration, which is available inside the manifest, this is the one point. And after that, initializing your router. Okay, so this part we will see in routing and navigation concept. And then before that, if you see it just initializing the UI component. Okay, so UI component is nothing but it's our parent component. Parent means anything you declare inside the component, right? That will be available in each and every controller and view file. Okay, that functionality. Okay, that is the purpose of component. So it is your parent component. And inside the component only other controllers and other view files will be loaded. Okay.
Okay.
Is it clear now?
Yeah, now it's clear to me. So it's very important file to which hold the
Yeah,
configuration
it is very
and
important file.
navigation
Don't
part.
mess with this file. Otherwise,
Okay.
nothing will work.
We are not supposed to do any changes over here, right?
Yes, we don't have to do any changes in this component.js file. Means earlier, before SAP Web ID or was introduced, right? Before that, generally developers, they were working on Eclipse. So in Eclipse, they were creating it manually, each and every file. But see, this is a technology, right? For sure, it should provide the things, built-in things, as it is a framework, and it should make developers' life easy going forward. So that's what SAP is doing. Okay. Once you create the project, basic configuration is already kept in the place. You don't need to touch. You just have to touch controller file, XML file, and like I18 file and CSS file. Okay, this only the files we would be touching most, and then some part of manifest.json file. Okay.
Okay.
Don't touch anything inside the component. Yeah, you can do one thing. If you want to initialize some model, right? You can initialize that inside the component.js, but that is also not required. If you define the model inside the manifest, so that model would be considered as a global model, not the local one. We'll say that more in detail. Okay, in case of models.
Okay.
Okay, so any other question?
Yeah, Vic, just a last question.
Mm-hmm.
For button, we added one method, and whenever we click that button, that particular method is being called in the controller system, right?
Right.
But for suppose message box, we want a pop-up or success message. For
Mm-hmm.
message box, why you need to write it explicitly in that function bracket controller and message box? Other things are working, but for message box, we need to write it in the controller explicitly.
Yes. Why? Because see, the message box, dialog box, and these are pop-ups. Okay, and it is not a part of view. First of all, it is always appearing on the top of view. Okay, because these are the pop-up controls which you cannot directly declare it inside the view. And in order to trigger this pop-ups, you need a method, right? Then only it will trigger. So for opening the message box, we have to call show method. Show method is there, error method is there, success method is there. All are
So
different methods of message.
any standard method we use in the controller, we need to normally how we declare in other programs, we need to add that one.
Yes, because see, from XML, if you write message box.show, how it will trigger?
Yes,
It
yes.
won't trigger actually. Okay. So it needs a method which will trigger and which will open the pop-up on the top of view. Okay, that controls are not that much comfortable with the views. So make sure that if you're using that kind of controls, right, you can write that that kind of controls, you can define it in the inside the controllers or inside the fragments. Okay, so today we have the fragment concept, we can see that. Okay, so guys, can we continue now?
Yes, yes, continue.
Okay. So I think in earlier session, just we have covered with the basic function validations, some basic validations, how we can add, and after that, the declaration of function inside the controller.js file. Okay, so let's see the new topic today, lifecycle methods. Okay, so in SAP UI5, there are 4 lifecycle methods. And in when we talk about the lifecycle methods, right? So these methods will be triggered automatically, okay, based on your application configuration. Okay, so these methods you don't have to trigger. These methods will be triggered automatically on runtime. Okay, so for example, what are these methods? So there are 4 types of lifecycle methods in SAP UI5. Okay, so there are 4 types of lifecycle methods in SAP UI5, in which one of them is onInit. Okay, onInit function is there. Let me declare it one by one. OnInit function, onExit, okay, then on before rendering, rendering. Okay, so these are 4 life cycle methods of SAP UI5. So what these methods will do? Okay, so let's start with the first one, onInit. So what onInit will be do? So this is the method which will be triggered only once for the controller. Okay, for example, let's say I have 3 or 4 controller files and 3 or 4 view files. Okay, let's consider that. And once you develop your application, so let's consider you have couple of next options. Okay, let's say in the footer you have a next button. Okay, so initially your registration page, it's getting enabled. Okay, that page is getting displayed initially when you load the app. So as soon as you click on next, again the first page or the other page is opening. Like after the registration, let's say your login page is opening. Okay, so for example, when you're opening the registration page, so this onInit method of the registration page, it will be triggered only once. Okay, so it will be triggered only once, and after that, once you navigate to the login page, okay, the page which will come after the registration page. So once you go to, or once you navigate to the login page, so again login page onInit method will be triggered only once. But now if you are coming back to the registration page again, okay, from login page, again if you are coming back to the registration page, so this onInit will not trigger in that case, because this method, it will trigger only once for the controller. Second time it won't trigger. Okay, and then what we do means this is the first point of this is the first method which will be triggered for any controller file. For example, as soon as I run the app, right, as soon as my controller is rolled, the first method which will be triggered in all of this lifecycle method is onInit. Okay, so what onInit will do? Let's say you want to do a one-time activity, okay, one-time initialization, or if you want to define a controls for one time, okay, in the entire app, it should be done only once, not twice. So you can use onInit. That for one-time activity only, you can use the onInit function. Okay, so this method you don't have to trigger anything, it will be triggered automatically. Okay, so for example, what I will do, I'll do one thing. Okay, let me add message box. Fine. So let me save this. Now you look at the output. Okay. Can you see now? Is it getting called?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't have to do anything. So for every control means, for example, as soon as I load this app, right? So registration page is the default page for this app. So for that page, I have added the onInit. So onInit method is already there. And inside that, whatever you add, so that will be triggered only once. But now, as I told you, so if you're going to the next page, like login page, and if you're coming back from login page to the registration page, so that onInit method, it won't trigger. Okay. So always remember it. Just if you want to do one-time activity or one-time configuration or anything, let's say you're declaring a variable, a global variable, and then with a basic value that should be only once. Okay, that's a one-time activity. So that things you can declare it inside the onInit. Okay. Or if you want to call a basic method at the time of upload, means you want to read the service or you want to read the data only once. For example, which thing you can add it. Let's say in your app, there are 3 or 4 pages, not pages or view files. Let's consider 3 or 4 view files. Each view file will have its own associated controller file. Okay. So as soon as you load the first page, so onInit method will be called, and in that you're just loading, you're calling one service just to read user details. Whoever the person logged in right into that application, only that details you want to read it. And you don't want to read it again and again, right? So this is just a one-time activity for that application and for that session. So that type of code also you can add it inside onInit. Okay, is this clear, guys?
Avik, one doubt on this.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean to say that for each controller, this on init will trigger once. Means
Yes.
supposedly there are 3 controller. So
Mm-hmm.
for so there would be 3 on init. This function would be there, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And okay. And when we go first time on that view, that time
Mm-hmm.
only it will get triggered. And again, if you are coming back, that time it will not trigger.
Yes, it will not trigger.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay. Okay, so this is all about the on init. Okay, so the next one is on exit. So what this on exit will do? Okay, so this method, when it will be triggered, let's say I want to close this app. Okay, as soon as I close this app, automatically this method will trigger on exit. And what an on exit will do? It will just clear up all the resources. Okay, whatever the resources the controls are using or our apps are using, each and everything will be destroyed. Each and everything, it will just do the work of clearing the resources. Okay, so that kind of functionality you can add it inside the on exit. For example, let's say as soon as you're clicking on the logout, right? So as soon as you click on the logout, let's say you want to destroy the entire app. Okay, whatever the app is done, you just want to destroy it. So you, that type of code also you can write it inside the on exit. Okay, and this is also triggered only once. But when it will be triggered, it will not trigger that as soon as you load the app. It will be trigger when you're closing the app. Okay, for example, I'll tell you. Okay, so let me put a breakpoint. So for, okay, I think it's still, it is loading. Hmm. Okay, let's say I'm putting a breakpoint and now I'm going to click on this close icon. What happened?
Avik, can you explain again that breakpoint part? How you have to?
Yeah, 1 second. Yes. Okay, breakpoint. Yeah, that's what in earlier, maybe you guys are missing the earlier sessions. Okay, so yeah, let's say I want to put a breakpoint, right? Means I want to debug this application. So for debugging the application, you just need to right click on this page, go to the inspect. Okay, as soon as you go to the inspect, right? So there are a couple of panels or tabs like elements, console, source. So for debugging the source, especially we have the tab sources. Okay, go to the sources. On left hand side, you will see the file explorer in which whatever the files are loaded associated with that project. So for that app, everything you will find out inside, you will see in this file explorer on left hand side section. Okay, you won't see any XML file, but for sure you can see the other files like controller, CSS, model, and other folders. Okay, so in which the code that we will mostly debug is the controller only. Okay, so this is our controller file, and as soon as you click, it will open on the right hand side. Okay, so as soon as it open, right, so there are a couple of options like on init is there. So let's say you want to put a breakpoint, so you can directly click on that line. Okay, so as soon as you click on the line, so breakpoint is kept on this particular line. So if I reload this app in this case, so what I know that on init will be triggered only once for that view or for that controller. So now I have already kept the breakpoint inside the on init, right? So see now, automatically it will stop at that line inside the on init. Okay, can you see now? See, it's waiting on the line number 13. Okay. So now as soon as I execute, right? So for let's say I want to remove the debugger and let it continue. So I want to resume it. So you just need to click on this icon. On right hand side, there is a resume icon. You just have to click on it. As soon as you click, everything will be continued. Okay. So it will be executed and you will see the output on the screen. Okay, guys, any questions in this?
So how we do the step, means in ABAP, like we have F5, F6, F7.
Let's say you want to execute one by one, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, see, now we have only one code inside this method, right? And as this is the one method which is triggering. So for example, I'll do one thing. We already have the sign up. Okay, I'm putting a breakpoint on 26 and 31. Okay, let's consider. And I'm clicking on sign up. As soon as I click on the sign up, so now breakpoint is at line number 26. Okay, so let's say I want to go or I want to execute only one line. That is, I want to go to the line number 30. So you should not click on this resume. If you're clicking on the resume, it will directly take you to the line number 31. Because on line number 31, we have kept the breakpoint. Okay. So if you're clicking on resume icon, it will directly take you to the line number 31 because we have the next breakpoint at line number 31. But let's say instead of breakpoint, you want to debug one line by line. So you can use this step over icon. Okay, it will take you to the next line. In this case, which is 30. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, yes. Sir.
Okay.
Avik, just a question, one question.
Mhm.
Suppose we have a variable here and there is some value in the variable. How
Mhm.
can we see what is the what is the value inside this variable here
Okay.
in this
For
debugging?
example, see now which line is executed? As of now, it's executed only one line. That is line number 26. So as soon as you hover on this button info, you will see the output in the pop-up. You just need to hover. Okay, let's say you're not able to see, you just copy this button info, go to the console, clear this and just paste it here. Okay, still you can see the details inside that variable. Okay, you can just copy because you already have a breakpoint and that is executed now. So whatever variables are declared, okay, before that line number means, for example, as of now, the it's executing line number 30. So before that, only one line is executed. That is line number 26 inside this function. So only you can see this output. You can't see any other functions output like this one. Okay, only that whatever the code is declared. Okay, that code which is declared inside this method, only that you can see and which got executed. Okay, not the other functions.
And
You're getting it right?
if I want to, means in the debugging section, just we do generally in ABAP, just by changing the value, we see that what output will come, and again we change the
Yes,
value.
yes,
So can
yes.
we
That
achieve this?
also you can do. Okay, let's say you want to change this code also on runtime. That is also possible.
Oh, okay.
Okay, for example, let's say instead of ID first name, I'm removing this. See, or you need to provide a other ID. You can do that, and once you do, right, let's say I'm adding A, and I'm clicking on Control S. As soon as I do Control S, right, it will save the code. Okay, it's not saving actually. Why it's not saving? Because if you look at this, okay, 1 second, let me see that. Okay, so the thing is, as we are working with this one, right? It's creating a localhost server, so it's not allowing us to save me. Okay, but we can change the code. Let's say you want to see the output also, right? Means, for example, in this case, wait, let me reload it and show you once again. Okay, so now let me execute. Okay, let's say I'm clicking on the sign up. Now I'm executing this line. Okay, now I know that inside O first name, I have the ID or the control instance of the first name. Okay, but now I want to change this value. Instead of first name, let's say I want to add any other name. So if you look at the first name, right, this is what value we have it inside O first name. But instead of that, if I want to change it to other value, like I'm adding other name. Okay, something value, I'm just adding it. So automatically now, if you hover on the first name, right, the value will be changed. Okay, that value will be changed and you can do the debug also. That's not a problem. You just copy and you just go to the console and you just change the value for that variable, and then that will automatically reflect in your source.
Okay.
But one thing is there, for example, let's say you're making some changes in this, and as soon as you do the Control S, so that change, whatever the change you will do, right? So that change will be temporary. It won't be saved inside the bash. Okay, it won't be saved in the original code. That would be available only temporary for that session. But once you reload it, right? So that whatever change you made, right, that will be gone. So like if you're adding or if you're building some logic in this developers tool, right, while debugging, so make sure that you copy that code. Otherwise, as soon as you reload, that code will be gone. Okay.
Okay. Actually, I have few more questions. If you don't mind, can I ask, or should I ask later?
Yeah, sure. If you want to
Uh,
ask if
yeah,
it's taking
actually,
5 minutes, then you can ask.
okay. So actually, what happens generally in a web when we want to, like, there are sort of there are like lots of records are there. So we just want that we should only that we have one concept called watch point. So that only get triggered when we put some values over there, like supposedly customer code is equal to 1,000. So whenever the customer code 1,000 will be hit, that time only the breakpoint gets triggered. So
Hmm.
do we have that kind of functionality in this part also?
No, in this part, what we have, you directly need to manually set the breakpoint in the console.
Hmm.
Okay. You directly need to set. Otherwise, let's say if you want to add it inside the code also, right? So you can add a debugger keyword. Okay, like this. Okay, if you're adding a debugger keyword, only two things are there in order to debug, or if you in order to set a breakpoint. One is by using a debugger keyword, or otherwise you need to set the breakpoint here. Only two ways are there. Apart from that, you can't do anything.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear, Abhi. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, let me proceed. Okay. So now where are we in on exit, right? So on exit, this is how it will not trigger as it is, okay? Because if I'm closing, right, so the closing of the tab is so quick that you can't even see the breakpoint inside the on exit. That's why we were unable to see that. Okay, so one more case is there in which I can show you. For example, let me do one thing. I will just destroy this view. Okay, I'm just going to destroy this view. So as soon as you destroy this view, it will trigger the on exit method. Okay, so for example, I'll do one thing here. So inside this handle button click is there, right? Let me put a, let me comment it out. I'm adding this dot get view. Okay, so for view, there is one method. One second. Go to the. Okay, so we have one method destroy. Destroy content. Okay, so let's do one thing. I'm just adding destroy content. Okay, so now let it reload. Fine. So now as soon as I will click on sign up, right? So we have added only a single line of code inside the button click, right? That is, we are going to destroy the content of the view. So as soon as I destroy the content of the view, internally it will trigger on exit. And it will trigger on exit. So why it will trigger? Just to free up other resources. Okay, parallelly with the view. Because if the view is destroyed, still if other controls are using some resources, right? So it on exit method, it will make sure that that is also clear. Okay. So for example, let me do, I'm clicking on the sign up. Okay. So as soon as I destroy content, you see now where it will go. Cannot read properties of null. Sorry, one more method is there, which I'm not able to remember. Okay, 1 second. This is view, which is extends control. Destroy. Yeah. So we destroyed only content of the view. We didn't destroy view. Only content we destroyed, right? So view is still available. Okay, let's do one thing now. Okay, let me click on the sign up. Okay. Now let's see whether breakpoint is coming inside on exit or not. Okay, can you see now? Okay. See, automatically this on exit is getting triggered. We didn't call it, right? Guys, are you following it?
Yes, Abhi.
Okay, we didn't
Yes.
call on exit method. Automatically, as soon as you destroy the view, so this on exit will be called, and it will make sure that it will just free up the resources, and then whatever the cache is there, right? This application is using everything. It will make sure that everything will be cleared, like data binding or some resources, some controls, some instances, everything it will just clear up. Okay, so that is a functionality of on exit. See, now it's automatically triggered.
Means it will clear automatically, or we have to explicitly write the code for refreshing
See,
the.
there are two ways. Yes, as soon as means on exit, you can also write the code if you want. Okay, for example, manually, if you're destroying the view, right? But there are some certain models. There are some certain global variables which has some values. Okay, and you want that it should be cleared. So that also you can add it inside the on exit.
So you mean that on exit will only clear the current view content, right?
No,
But
no, no.
globally that
It's
still will
not
be there.
about the current view. This on exit method, it will be called only once for the entire app.
Acha, for the entire, for, not for the each controller.
Controller. No,
For
not for the controller. It is called for the entire app.
oh, I see. I thought like it will be working same like on init. Okay.
No, 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 not like that.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
Okay.
On init is for the controller, each controller, and on exit is for the entire app.
Entire app. Yes. Okay. So that's how the on exit will do. Okay. So now let's move to the on before rendering. So what this
Avik,
on before rendering will do? So
hello.
most probably, hello.
Yeah, Avik, this destroy
Hmm.
method is same as closing the tab, right?
Destroy method is same like closing the tab. Yeah, it's
Means
almost similar to that only, because
so
if you
from
call the
destroy
destroy,
method we
right? Mhm.
can call the on exit, or from or while closing the tab also the same method can be called.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, I mean whenever that we're closing that tab, that particular
Mhm.
tab, that on exit method is called, and that
Mhm.
particular destroy method also can no the
Yeah,
destroy
that
method can also call
destroy
the
method
on
is
exit.
also, yeah, it will also be called.
Okay, 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 got it.
Avik, one actually small doubt. It's coming in my mind. I just want to
Mhm.
ask you. Uh, it's on the same on exit. So now, as you have mentioned that it will be called only once for the entire app. So
Mhm.
when it will be called, when we will be having more than one view, like two, three views are there, and
Yes, yes.
coming out from the first view to the other, from the means any view, view three to view two. So
Hmm.
means when this on exit will be called, means that I want to understand.
See, on exit method, it will be called if you're closing the app, okay, or if you're
Okay.
destroying the app,
I
or
think this
let's
is
say now,
independent of views.
yeah,
This is
it is
Independent.
a
independent.
independent means. For example,
Okay.
what I want to say, for example, now see, this is the standalone app which we are running. We are not running it any Fury Launchpad, right? But in future, you guys, you will deploy this app on Fury Launchpad. Okay. Once you deploy this app on the Fury Launchpad, and then for example, you're going to click on home icon, right? So as soon as you click on the home icon, your app will be closed and it will take you to the home page. So in that case, on exit method will be triggered and it will make sure that everything is cleared
Okay.
internally. But if let's say explicitly, if you want to make sure that that particular content, it should be clear. Okay, and you're sure that that it is getting stored in somewhere and you want to clear it explicitly. So that code also you can write it inside the on exit at the end, wherever you want. Okay. But
Yes.
it's
Okay.
not like that on exit method will be triggered for every controller for destroying. No, it's triggered only once if you're closing the app, if you're foreclosing the app, or if you're going to the home screen directly, right? So in all these cases, your on exit will be triggered.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So
So
means
maybe
it will.
guys, you can do one thing, right? So maybe what you guys can do, you can just after means today you can create one app, you can just put a breakpoint and you try. Okay, whether it's getting triggered or not, in which cases it's getting called. But why I'm not able to give you a couple of examples, like we can define couple of views, right? But not why I'm not defining, because we have a different concept, routing and navigation. Before that, I can't explain that one. Okay.
Got it, Abhi. That time we'll see more in detail on this method.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And about the
Okay.
variables also which are getting cleared and which needs to be cleared, we'll see.
Yes. Basic things if you want to add explicitly, like you want to add, right? You want to clear some data or some local storage or anything. Anything you want to explicitly do, you can do it, and you can add that code. Just you want to make sure that nothing should come or nothing should be stored once you close the app. If that kind of feature, if you want, and you want to make sure that everything should be fresh, or everything should be reseated properly, so you can add it inside the on exit.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's move to the next on before rendering. So on before rendering, I would say, yeah, we can skip this actually. We will not use on before rendering and on after rendering. Okay. But okay, I'll tell you what we do, what we can do inside on before rendering. So on before rendering means initially when you run the app. Okay. So the first method which will be triggered is on init. Okay. So let me do one thing. Let me copy this. Okay, so let's do one thing now. Okay, so the on top of that, on before rendering method is called. Okay, let me click on OK. So the first method which is triggered is on init. Okay, on top of that, we were able to see on before rendering. Okay, what on before rendering will do? So on before rendering, it will trigger every time you re-render the UI. For example, when it will be triggered, for example, if we have couple of views. Okay, so registration page is the first view. Login page is the second view. Now, for registration page, on init method will be triggered, and then parallelly on before rendering method will also get triggered. Okay, so after that, once you go to the login page, so again login page on init method will be triggered, and after that on before rendering method of login page it will trigger. Okay, but if you're coming back to the registration page again, so in that case, it won't trigger on it, but instead of that, it will trigger on before rendering. Okay, so this on before rendering, every time it will be triggered if your view is getting re-rendered. Okay, so that is the use case, but in which place you can use on before rendering. For example, your view is getting created. Okay, I can see the output means before my view is designed, I want to load some data from the front end, or sorry, from the back end. I need to fetch user details from the OData service. Okay, from the OData service from S4 HANA system. Okay, of the user details. So if I want to fetch that information, but I want that information to be handy before my view is designed, or before my screen is designed, or before my app is displayed. Why? Because otherwise what will happen? User will wait before your details are fetched, right? Otherwise, user need to wait before the details are fetched. So if you don't want that user to wait, so you can add that code inside on before rendering, so that it will make sure that your data, your user details are fetched before your UI is rendered. Okay, are you getting it?
Actually, somewhat.
Somewhat
Completely.
means, yeah, I know it's confusing,
Ah,
but mostly we don't use it actually. Okay.
okay.
So most probably maximum, I'll tell you, maximum we will use on init and on after rendering. REST methods like on exit, you don't need to do anything. Nowadays it will trigger internally and you don't have to do anything. On
Mhm.
after rendering and on init. These two methods you can, this can be used mostly. But in that also on after rendering, it is used in couple of cases. Not 100% every developer will use. Okay, depends on your requirement. Okay, on init method, it will do everything for you. I'll tell you. And there is also one more way in which whatever you define inside the on init, right? So it will trigger every time if you're coming back to the registration page or if you're coming back to the login page. Okay, so that concept is also available inside routing and navigation.
1 minute. You told that Means if I come back again to the same page, the on init will get trigger again. You mean?
Yes,
But
but it won't trigger other code inside the on end. Only one line of code it will trigger, which is based on the routing. For example, I have added 10 lines of code inside on init. So initially, if you're loading registration page, your 10 lines will be executed, right? So that will execute. But now for second time, if you want that on init it will trigger, right? It won't trigger. Only one line of code in which we have defined some routing, some router parameters or some targets, right? So only that pattern, if that pattern is getting matched, in that case only that method will be triggered.
acha, that time only the on init will get triggered.
Yes, but it won't execute all the 10 lines. It
Acha,
only execute that particular line in which
line.
the pattern is matching.
Okay, okay,
Okay. So that's
okay.
what I'm telling you. So don't be confused. Okay.
Yeah, actually, because last time I thought that only once it will be triggered whenever if we call that view, and again if we go and come back, it will not call that on it. That I thought. Okay, now I got it. The specific scenario of that on in
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So what about this on after rendering? On before rendering. Okay. See, I'll tell you on before rendering means the one example which I've given you now. Let's say you want to read some data. Okay. Before your screen is designed. Okay, before your app is displayed, before that only means when it is reloading, right? Your app is loading. In that time only, if you want that detail to be fetched first. So in that case, you can go with on before rendering. You can add that code and you can load that data. Okay, before your view is rendered. But what about the on after rendering? On after rendering means once your view is rendered, after that, that method will be triggered. Okay, once your view is created, your controls are initialized. Okay, your controls are available inside the DOM. So after that only your on after rendering will be triggered. Means let's say, okay, on before rendering, I'll tell you on before rendering, you don't need to take care now. You just ignore it. For basic information, what you can do if you want to load some details and you want that to be handy before your app is loaded. So you can add that code inside on before rendering. Okay, that's not that much useful. You can same thing you can do it with the on init. You don't need to call on before rendering. Okay, it's fine.
Avik, if we click any button,
Mm-hmm.
on after rendering will be called or not?
No. Means for example, which button you are saying?
Any button. Suppose if we have in a view, and we
Mm-hmm.
click it, the method which is associated with that particular button will be called, and on after rendering also will be called or not?
No. It won't be called. See, these are lifecycle methods. These are lifecycle methods of view of the applications. It has some time, right? And it has some behavior. It will be triggered based on the runtime. Okay, on runtime, these methods will be triggered depending on how your view is.
Hello. I'm not able to hear your voice a bit.
Me
Me
also.
too. Me too.
Okay, okay. We might be facing some connection issue.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
hi.
Avik. Yes.
Sorry.
No
Actually,
No,
my
no issue.
Wi-Fi got disconnected. Okay,
No
one
issue.
second. Let me reshare it. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this on before rendering. So whatever on after rendering, it won't be triggered on button click. Okay. So one example I can give you for on not for on before rendering, on after rendering I can give you. So let's say you want to do some manual activities on input field. Okay, like let's say you want to reduce the input field or you want to make it big once it is rendered. Okay, once it is rendered, after that you want to do some operation, so that you can do inside on after rendering. But what is the purpose of on after rendering means? So that on after rendering, it can be triggered for a particular control also. Means for input field, once your input field is rendered, after that you want to do some manual operation on input field, like you want to set the placeholder, or you want to reduce the input field size, or some CSS you want to add, okay, dynamically. So everything you can do it with the help of on after rendering. Okay. So for adding on after rendering, I'll do
Can we
one
see
thing.
one example?
That's how I think let me take that time for today. Okay, for on after
Okay.
rendering. Maybe
Okay.
I'll see one example which can help you actually. Okay, that will work. Maybe tomorrow in the tomorrow, maybe before we start, maybe we can discuss this on after rendering example once.
Yes, yes, that would be helpful
Okay.
actually. Thank you.
Couple of examples, maybe that which can help you actually. Because I have done so many examples and I'm not able to remember which one I can show you. And because it depends on the requirement, right? Based on the requirement only we have implemented, but apart from that, we didn't implement it.
Right.
Okay, fine. Okay, so that
Yes.
on after rendering, on before rendering also, maybe let me take time for today and let me see if there is any example which can help you just for understanding purpose. Okay, so these two examples I'll explain you tomorrow. Okay, will that work?
Yes, Abu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so before that, at least this on exit and on init, is it clear?
Yes, on init and on exit is clear.
Yes.
On exit also we will try. Okay, means we can see for multiple views, and we can also see that example, this on before and on after in multiple views once we create with that. Okay, so guys, let's do one thing. Let's take a 10 minutes break, and after that we can start with the new topic, fragments. Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay. Okay.
fragments
Sure.
is the new topic. Yes. Any questions?
No, Avik, no.
No, right? Yeah. Okay, so now it's 11:13. Let's connect at 11:23. Just be on call and just be on mute. Okay. So meanwhile, if you want to do some practice, you can do. That's not a problem. So in this 10-15 minutes, if you want to do the remaining assignment, you can complete it. Okay, let's okay, let me be on mute.
Hello, Avik.
Guys, 1 minute. I'm coming back in a 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay, guys, let me share my screen. Okay, so let's start with the new topic, fragments. Yes, so what are the fragments and why we use the fragment? Everything we will see now. And then what are the use cases? How we can declare and which controls are useful in case of fragments? Everything we will see now. Okay. So guys, one thing. So before we start with the fragment, so let's start with the basic understanding. So let's say now you want to develop a app which is very complex. Okay, it's a single page app which has only single controller. Means in this case, if you consider, we have registration page controller.js file and registration page.view.xml file. Okay, so only two XML files we have. Sorry, only two files we have in order to design the entire app. But for sure, we don't know anything about the app because going forward in the future, the code will be increased inside the controller file and also inside the view file, right? For sure, it will increase daily, one by one. Okay. So now consider you have at least 15 simple forms. Okay. You have at least 15 or 10 or 15 tables or list controls. All these different controls are available in a single registration page.view.xml file. Okay. So in order to load all these controls same time in registration page, will it affect the performance of the app or not? Means what would be the code? Will that code would be very less or that would be more? Means how much lines of at least minimum lines of code we need to add in order to include all these controls like 15 simple forms, 10 or 15 tables or list or other controls. How many lines it will take at least? More
Get
than
more.
1000 line?
Yes.
Maybe yes.
At least it will take it, right? Because if you look at the simple form, sorry, in this XML, just we have added a simple form with only 2 fields and it's taking around 32 lines. But not sure if the simple form has at least 15 or 20 fields. And same like that form, we need a 10 or 15 simple forms. So how much line it will take? For sure, it will take more than 1000 lines, right? And so for this 1000 lines, if you want to do some changes, so will that be very easy? Will that be very neat and clean so that you can directly see the code and you can make the change? No, right?
No.
It won't be easy. Because if you're adding all these lines of code in a single view.xml file, and let's say if there is any error in that view.xml file, and as soon as you reload, you're getting error. Your app is not loading. Okay, it's not loading at all. And you're getting error because of some silly mistake which you're not able to identify. So what you will do in that case? How you will debug the code? Because one thing which I told you from the start, that you cannot debug XML code. Only JavaScript code we can debug. We cannot debug XML code. Right? So what we can do in that case now? Okay, see, two things happens in this. One is the maintenance, right? The way you're defining all the controls, the maintenance means going forward, let's say you want to provide a support also. That should also take minimal time, right? It should not take more time just to understand the application. It should hardly take less time to understand the structure of the app. Okay, the second thing is the performance. Your performance, it should not be degraded, right? It should means at least at the time of app means when you're loading the app, your performance should be good. And the third thing is reusability. For example, the same form, it is being called thrice and twice means in the same page. Okay, same form you're using. Okay, only the values are different. Let's say in one case you want to use display form. In one case you want to use editable form. Okay, and in that same form, it is being used in couple of places. So will you write the same code again and again? Same form, will you declare the same form again and again? Or you will think about reusability of code? What you will think?
Reusability of.
Yes. Okay. So for achieve, okay, in order to fix all these issues, what SAP has done, they have came up with the fragments. Okay. They came up with the fragments. So what are the fragments? Fragments are lightweight UI elements or UI parts, if you consider, okay, which doesn't have its own controller. Okay, fragments are lightweight UI elements or UI parts which doesn't have its own controller. Okay, it's not similar to the view. Okay, it doesn't have its own controller like view. Okay, but for sure it will combine and it will connect, means it will integrate with the view once you load the fragment inside the view file. But before that, a fragment is not considered a part of view. It will be loaded when you need it. So for example, in this case, this is our registration page. Okay, in that if you consider, we have this simple form. Okay, this is my simple form in which I have first name and the password. Okay, so let's say I want to use the same form in couple of places. So what I will do, I can directly copy paste, right? I can directly copy paste wherever I need it. But let's say instead of copy pasting, I want to reuse the same code in couple of places. So what should I do? I can use the fragments. Okay, I can create a XML fragment. I can add this code inside I can add this code inside the fragment. And wherever I want it, right, this fragment to be, this simple form to be displayed, only that fragment I will load in that place. You don't need to declare the same line of code in a number of places. only one line of code is sufficient to load the fragment inside the view file. Okay, this is the thing that you can achieve through the fragment. Means you can reuse the code. Second thing, a performance can be improved because if you compare, if you consider the fragment with the view is nothing but it is a control instance. Okay, view itself, it is one kind of control. Fragment is not a control. It doesn't have any instance. Whatever you declare inside the fragment, it will just return that control. For example, if you are calling this dot get view, so get view method is there which will return the view. Okay, but in that case, if you try to load the fragment, right, if you try to get the fragment, it won't return the fragment. Instead of that, it will return the control which you have defined inside the fragment. Okay, let's see that now. Okay, so let's see how the fragments are displayed. Okay, how the fragments are defined. So there are a couple of fragments. Okay, the fragment types are available, like XML fragment is there, JavaScript fragment is there. So a couple of fragments are there, but SAP recommends to use XML fragment only. Okay, because I told you, if you are using XML fragment, then only we can follow the standard of MVC architecture, right? We can follow the architecture of MVC. Okay, and that can be followed with the help of XML only. So that's what in going forward we will mostly focusing on XML fragment. Okay, guys, is this clear? Can we start now with the fragment?
Yes, Ravi.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So for declaring the fragment, okay. So now let's say you want to create your own fragment file. So before you declare the fragment, the best practice is create a separate folder for the fragment. Okay. Create a separate folder for the fragment inside the web app. So this is your web app inside which we already have controller, CSS, I18 model and other folders. Okay, inside this, you need to create a separate folder for the fragments. Okay, so now I'm creating a separate folder for the fragment. So I'm adding the fragments as a folder name. Okay, so now your fragment folder is created. So now inside the fragment folder, whatever the fragment file you will create, right? The extension of that fragment file will be .fragment.xml. Okay, that should always be the extension for any fragment file going forward. Okay, so now let's say I'm writing user login dot fragment dot xml. Okay, so this is the extension of any fragment file. So this is your fragment file name. So the extension would be in small case dot fragment dot xml. Okay, this is the extension of your fragment file. Okay, and this is how the name of the fragment file it should be defined. Just click on OK. Now, once you click on OK, right? So your fragment file is created inside the fragment folder. Okay, and which is blank as of now. So now inside the fragment file, what you need to define. So for adding the content inside the fragment, we need to add a fragment definition. Okay, and that fragment file. So whatever the fragment we need to add it, right? So that will appear or that will come from the library sap.ur.core.fragment. Okay, so let me tell you. Can you see now? Okay, so whenever you want to use the fragment, right, or fragment definition, anything you want to define. So whatever you want to define it, so that needs to be defined under this library sap.ur.core.fragment. Guys, 1 second. I'm getting one call. Only 1 second. Sorry for that, guys. Okay. So now the fragment definition, that fragment definition will come under this library, sap.ui.core.fragment. Okay. So 1 second, let me go to the core. So this is your core. Okay. So under this core only, we will have a fragment definition. So that fragment definition, we are going to add it. Okay. So let's add the fragment definition. I'm adding a core colon fragment definition. Core colon fragment definition. Okay, so this core we need to declare it first. XMLNS colon core is equal to sap.ui.core. Okay, so this core file we need it. After that, I'm declaring one more XMLNS, which is sap.m. I'm making it as a default. Okay, and then I'm adding because as we are going to shift the simple form contained here, right? So I need the simple forms library as well. So this one form. Just copy it, go back to the fragment and add it here. Fine. So this fragment is added now. So the next thing is, so I will just cut this content. Okay, cut this content of simple form, go to the user login, just paste it over there. Okay, fine. Now your content is added. Okay. So guys, till now it's clear.
Yes.
Okay, you just created a separate fragment folder and inside that you created a new fragment file which has an extension .fragment.xml, and in that first you have added a fragment definition. Okay, so before you add any code, right? For example, if you consider the view, so first we need to define view tag, and inside that we need to add rest other things. So same like for the fragment, you need to add a fragment definition tag. Okay, and before that you need to prefix core, because this fragment definition it's coming from core library. Okay, and after that I have made sap.m as a default library, and then I've added one more library for the simple form. Okay, so this is done. So now the next thing is how to load this fragment file inside the view.xml file. Okay, so there are two ways to call the fragment file. One is from the controller and one is from the XML. Okay, so in two ways you can call the fragment file. Okay, so now let's see how we can call the fragment file. So for calling the fragment file, so what we need to use? So there are two ways. So one, we need to use core colon fragment. Okay, after that you need to add fragment name. Okay, that's it. So this is the syntax, and at the end you need to add one more type. So type equal to XML. Okay, so this fragment we need to load it, and this fragment from which library it will come? It will come from the core library. Okay, so this fragment is available inside the core library. If you search for the fragment, right? Okay, this is our fragment. Okay, and if you go to the fragment, we just need to add it a type. Okay, and at the end we have the fragment name. Fine. It extends manage object. Let's go to that. Manage object. Okay, so what are the spatial settings for the fragment? One is the fragment content and the fragment name. Okay, so fragment content we don't need it because we have already defined, right? And the fragment name we need it because what is the name of the fragment that we want to load in that case? Okay, so the fragment name we have added and the type also we have added because this fragment it is of type XML. Okay, So now let me add this fragment. So how you will provide the fragment name here? So for providing the fragment path here, can you see on the top controller name? So this is just a path of your controller or registration page, right? 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now let's say if you want to provide the path of the fragment name, right? So for providing the path of the fragment name, so if you look at the controller name, this is just a path of the controller file for the registration page. Same you can copy as it is. Okay, don't do anything. Whenever you want to copyright the path, this is the best thing that you can do. You can directly refer controller name or you can go to the controller file. So this is also you can pass on the controller.extend. So this is the path. Okay, so this you can copy directly. Go back to your view file. You provide here. So now in this registration page is from the controller folder. So now we instead of controller folder, we want to refer fragment folder, right? Fragments. And after that, what is the name of the file? So this is our fragment folder and the name of the file is user login. Okay, fine. So you don't have to provide the extension. Okay, so it's internally managed. You don't need to provide the extension of the fragment file. Okay, so it's managed internally. Okay, so now let me inspect this. Go to the network and just reload this. Okay, as soon as you reload, you just need to open your network tab, and in network tab you will see a fragment that user login.fragment.xml file will be loaded. Okay, can you see now here? User login.fragment.xml file is loaded. If you double click on it, right? So this is how it will open in the new tab, and this is the content of the fragment file. Okay, so you have to make sure that whether your fragment file is loading or not. Okay, so this is a separate file, and then if you're able to see, can you see the content? Content is also getting displayed now, which is coming from the fragment. Okay, guys, any questions in this? See what I've done.
Avi, can we use the same fragment in some other project, or it is
Yes.
specific to this project
No,
only?
no, no. It's specific to the project.
Okay,
Guys,
okay.
you are taking this concept to another level.
Okay.
Okay, I mean within this project, for example, this registration page.view.xml file is there. Let's say you have 2 or 3 other view files, so you can use this same fragment. It can be called. Okay, but one thing is there which I can tell you. So the IDs. Okay, now let's say this is our simple form which is declared inside the user login. Okay, so ID, if you look at this input field ID first name, right? So this is your inputs ID first name. But if you're using the uh, same fragment in couple of places, and let's say if all the fragments are loaded at the same time. Okay, loaded means now in the first page your fragment is loaded, so it's already available. So next time you don't need to load it again. Now you're going to the login page again. You're going to load this fragment. So now what will happen? You will get a duplicate ID. Why? Because ID first name it's already loaded and it's available inside the view. And then for the next view, again, you're loading the ID first name. So these 2 IDs are already available. So what UI5 will do, right? So UI5 will make sure that each and every fragment's ID, because whatever ID you have declared inside the fragment, okay, that should be prefixed with the views ID. For example, I'll tell you. So for the first name, we have already provided the ID, right? Let me inspect. Okay, so this is how I can inspect. Now, if you scroll up, can you see now here? Can you see the ID? Okay, this is your ID first name. And before that, it prefixed the registration page ID. That is your XML's ID. And then before that, you can see this is your project ID. And again, before that, this is your container ID. Okay, it is automatically done. Okay, so why they are doing it explicitly? They will assign ID because they want to make each and every control or tags to be unique. Otherwise, you will get duplicate IDs. Because if same ID is already available, why it will load the second ID? So for every view, you will have its own means, for example, if I'm loading the fragment file for this registration page, so this registration page ID will be prefixed with the fragments ID. Okay. And then for login page also, that login page ID will be prefixed with the fragments ID. So that's how the controls will be made unique. So you will not face any duplicate ID issues and all. Okay. Guys, is this clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so now let's see one more time. Okay, so for working with the fragments, right? If you are new and if you want to work with the fragment, first create a separate folder for the fragments. After that, create a new file with the extension .fragment.xml. And if you want to add the code inside the fragment, right? First, you need to define the fragment definition tag, XML tag. And after that, you can define some default libraries and the controls that you are mostly going to use. After that, you define a simple form control. Okay, and once you paste it, right, and then how you will load that, you need to define a fragment tag. It should be prefixed with the core tag, and then you provide a fragment name and the type as a XML. Okay, and once you provide, so automatically this fragment will be placed inside the page content. Okay, so now this fragment is placed inside the page content. Okay, got it? So now one more thing. Okay, so this is the basic thing regarding the fragment. So now what I said, a fragment doesn't have its own controller file. So now this fragment file, it is invoked from the registration page. So now what it will do, it will use the controller file associated with this registration page. Okay, because from registration page.view.xml file only, it is the place from where the fragment got invoked. Right? This is the place from which a fragment is loaded. So now what fragment will do, it will share the controller file of this view file. Okay, for writing other logic. Means like, for example, let's say I want to add a method here. Okay, and this method, these controls we have defined it inside the user login fragment.xml file. So where I can write the code for this fragment file. So that code I can write it inside the registration page.controller.js file. Same like normal, how we used to do it for the view file. Okay, got it? Guys,
Yes.
any questions? Is it confusing?
No, got it, Avik, on my side.
Okay, it's very easy actually. It's nothing. There is no complex at all. If you understand it right, it's very easy to understand. Only you have to make sure that whenever you're working with the fragments, right? So most probably you will get the issues like duplicate ID. Okay, that's a common error always any developer will face at his initial level. Okay, duplicate ID. So that duplicate ID, when you will get it, if you're not configuring the fragment properly, if you're loading the fragment file properly, and if you're not providing any ID, right? So for sure it will work properly without any problems. Okay, so let's do one thing. I'm going to add one live change event to the first name. Or let's say I'm going to add one button also. Okay, so this method where I will declare it inside the registration page because from there only it got triggered, right? I can define this function. I'm just adding a debugger keyword here. Okay, let it reload now. Let's see now the output. Okay, so now let's say now see the controls are available. It is declared inside the user login fragment.xml file. Okay, so these controls are defined inside the fragment file. Now you are inside the controller file. Now you want to access the ID of input field. So how you will access the ID of input field? Let's see that now. Okay. Now let's say I'm just clicking and I'm just putting breakpoint is already there, right? In get fragment info. Okay, because of we have added debugger keyword. So let's say now if I'm writing this, how to get the ID? For getting the ID, we will write this dot get view by ID, right? This is what the way we do. Okay, if I provide the ID, we will get it. Okay, why? Because we have defined the fragment properly. We didn't provide any ID to the fragment file. By default, whatever ID is there, right? It's taking it's by default. If you see, it's taking the prefix of the registration page or view.xml file, and after that the ID of input field, and which is right only. Okay. Let's say I will do one thing now. I'll provide a ID to the fragment file here. Okay. So I have specified ID to this fragment tag. Okay, let it reload now. Okay. So now, shall I write a same code? This dot get view dot by ID. Let's see now whether it's coming or not for us. Can you see now? This dot get view dot by ID first name. Now it is undefined. So how you will get it now? So what people will do generally, they will write if they are declaring any controls inside the fragment. So they will write SAP dot UI dot get core dot by ID, and inside that they will provide ID first name. This is how they will do. But if you see, as we provided the ID right to the fragment, so it won't, you cannot get this ID directly. You need to prefix this ID in front of it. Like for example, if you prefix that and if you add to hyphen, 1 second. Can you see now? Got it? If you look at the ID, how the ID got changed now? See, this is your input field ID. And before that, if you see, this is your fragments ID. And then before that, if you see, this is your views ID. Okay. And this is your project ID and this is your containers ID. Okay. Can you see the change in the syntax? Okay.
Yes.
So if you're providing, if you're giving a ID, if you're providing the ID property to the fragment, so make sure that if you're writing this code, this dot get view dot by ID, it won't return any ID and you will get it undefined. So if you want to get it, you need to prefix the fragments ID before the ID of your view, ID of your control. Then only you will get it. Okay. Okay, guys, any questions in this? Guys, any questions?
No.
No.
Avik, you are explaining that live change. What is that?
Yeah, that live change, it's a input field change. Okay, 1 second. It's just a normal event only. Like that event will be fired every time you enter a character inside the input field. I thought of explaining, but not required now. This purpose has been fulfilled with the button. What I wanted to say that if you're declaring any controls, right, and now if you want to add a methods, if you want to add a code for that, where you can add it. So you can add triggered from the view. And then that views controller file is registration page. So you can use the registration page controller file for writing the code. Okay, for the fragment. Okay, that I wanted to say. Okay, and the second purpose is how to get the ID. So for getting the ID, if you're specifying explicit ID to the fragment definition, so you won't get it's not easy or it's not possible to get the ID by following normal syntax like this dot get view dot by ID. In the if you're using that syntax, you will not get the ID because explicitly you have added or you have assigned the ID property to the fragment. Okay, it's clear now. Guys, is it clear or you want me to
Yes, clear.
explain it once again?
Yeah, it is clear.
It's clear, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now let's see. This is one way that we call this fragment from the controller. Sorry, from the view. Let's say if you want to call the same fragment from the controller. Okay, because yeah, one thing which I thought of explaining you. Okay, so before I load the fragment, right? Let's see how we can declare the controls inside the controller folder or controller file. Okay, so guys, there are two ways to design your view file or to design your app. So you can directly use XML tags inside the view.xml file, or you can write your JavaScript code to create a controls and then you need to add it on the view file. Okay, so there are two ways to design your page with the help of controller file and with the help of view.xml file. So how to design? So let me show you. So let me comment out this code. I'm adding that code inside the on init because this on init will be triggered only once. So I'm adding it here. Okay. So now let's consider. So I'm let me. Sorry, where is the XML? Okay, I'm just commenting out this fragment tag from here. And now once it reload, right? So the content will be blank. You will only see the title bar, right? So now everything is blank. Okay. Now let's say I want to design this page from the controller. Okay. Let's say I want to add a button. I'll search for the button. Okay, this is my button now. So now you want to design this button from the controller. How you can design? So for designing, you just need to click on constructor. Okay. And this is what the syntax we have to follow if you want to design this button from the constructor, sorry, from the JavaScript or from the JS file. Guys, anyone pinging? Okay, fine. Okay, so now what I will do, so now if you want to design this button from the controller file, so you just need to copy this constructor, copy it. Okay, go back to your app, go to the controller, just add it here. Just declare one variable where o button and then give equal to sign and just paste it that line. Okay, so now this button has two parameters. One is the ID of the button, which is optional. Whenever you see question mark, it means it is an optional parameter. Okay, so both are optional. If you want to provide, you can provide, or otherwise you can keep it as a blank. Okay, so the first one is the ID. So I'm not going to provide this ID. Okay, and the second one is the M settings. So what is this M settings? So M setting is nothing but it is your object. Okay, already the type is given for that parameter. So M setting is nothing but it is your object. Okay, initial setting for the new control. And then what you can define inside the M settings, you can define the properties inside the M settings. Okay, so I'll do one thing now. I'll remove this SID or okay, let me add it. I'm adding ID button. So now this M setting is the object. This is our object. Okay, now inside this object, you need to add the properties. Okay, and that properties you can go to the property section. Let's say I want to add a text property to the button. And in double quotes, you can add like info button. Okay, this is the information. And now this is the property you have added. Let's say I want to add one more property, give comma, and then add the type. Okay, let's say I want to add a type to the button. So the type colon. So now in XML, you can directly add type like this. Type equal to. Okay, so yeah, you can directly add type like this, type accept or type reject, something like that. But if you're going to design the button from the controller, right? So in that case, you cannot directly add except in this double quotes. Okay. Okay, you cannot add like this. What you need to do in this case, you click on this button type in front of it. You just copy this entire line. Go back and you just paste it here. Okay. This is how we need to define. This is how we need to add a properties inside the M settings parameter or M setting constructor or the object. Okay, this is the way that you need to do whenever you're going to design a button control from the controller file. Okay, guys, are you getting the syntax now? Whatever I have done. Guys.
Yes. This button
Okay.
is visible in.
No, but button is not visible. We need to add that button. Okay, but at least this is how we need to declare the button. First of all, this is the syntax of button initialization. After that, now you want to add. But before we add, I will also show you how we can add the press event. Okay, so for button, we have the press event, right? So just give comma, you can add press colon. Here only you can add the function like this.
So you mean to say whenever we define a button, these are the prerequisite. Means this is a actual way we have to define it.
Yes,
Text,
this is the
type,
actual
press.
way. Yeah, type
Because
also, and this is the yes.
previously we have just mentioned the text and directly we have to right.
Right.
Okay.
See, from controller side, this is the syntax we need to follow. But from XML side, The syntax is different little bit. Okay. Everything, whatever you provide, everything, it should be in double quotes in case of XML. But in controller, like for example, for the type, right, you cannot directly provide except in double quotes. Instead of that, you can directly copy that link and you can paste it here, that value directly. sap.m.button type.accept.
It's coming
Okay.
from the library sap.m.
Yes.
That button. So, like how previously you have used the alias, right?
Mm-hmm.
To define it. So, can't we use over here?
Yeah, we can use one more thing. Like for example, see now we have written O button equal to new sap.m.button we have used, right?
Yes, yes.
So, so how we can declare the same button? So like we need to copy, you need to paste it here.
Mhm.
And then you need to provide this button to the controller. And then you can just remove this sap.m and you can write like this.
Okay.
Okay. But it is not that much handy, right?
Mhm.
For sure, for every control, you need to declare that.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So it's better that means what SAP says, if you want to design the page, right? So maximum you try, okay, try your best to design entirely from the XML, from the view. If
Mhm.
something, if you're unable to design and if some content or some controls are dynamically created on runtime, depending on the data, right? Or so depending on the certain conditions. So in that case, you can prefer controller.js file because you can also add the condition right here. If condition you can add, let's say for if the data is this, you want to add button. But if let's say if the data is this or that, you need instead of button, you need to add any other control. So that one feasibility is there in case of controller. That same feasibility is not there inside the XML file, right? How you can add if condition here. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So now this is how we can define the press function, and then you can directly write the code inside this function. Okay. Otherwise, one more thing is there. Or if you want to try, you can write like this: press colon this dot a function name you can add dot bind this. This is also one more way to and this function you need to declare below after the ending like this.
This is
Fine.
something new for us.
Yeah, this is
Dot
something new
punch
for
name
us.
dot find this. Okay. Like
Yeah, what
we
this bind this will do. Okay, this bind this. Yeah, not I will not cover this now. So this bind this will cover in OData model. Okay, why I'm doing this, I'll tell you for sure. But at least so far it's clear that the button declaration and all.
yes. So this
Okay.
ID button is defined in that what we say in that view also, right? Same.
Yes, ID button, it's defined in the view also. If you want to provide ID, you can provide a ID to the button and in that you can provide ID button.
So we have to mention before writing any.
Yes.
Okay. So these
Okay,
are
so
the predefined steps and syntax which we have to remember, right?
yes, these
Whenever
are
we are defining
predefined.
anything.
Yeah. Any control you want to check, right? For example, if you want to define radio button, so for every control they have provided the constructor, right?
Okay.
So you just need to copy that constructor and also check the parameters. What is SID? What is M setting? What is whether it's object or string, that you need to check properly.
And some sample code is given, like how
No,
you
no, no.
have
A
mentioned.
sample code is not given for this. Very less. You will see very less sample code for this.
Okay.
Okay. But for sure, if you remember this right, what I'm trying to do now here, for sure you can write it easily. Okay. You just have to remember this. Once you're following the proper steps, any control you can design it going forward.
Okay.
But now if you see, we have just declared the button control, but on the output screen, button is not coming. Now we need to we need to add this button inside the page, right? So we didn't added it. So I'll do one thing. So we have the page ID. Okay, because at the end we will add that button inside the content of the page. So first we need to get the page ID. So I'll write here RO page equal to this dot get view dot by ID. Inside that I'll provide the page. Okay, so now I have the page. So now I want to add a content inside the page. So let me search for page here. Okay, this is my page. So for adding the content, we have an add content. Okay, so what this add content will do, it will add the content inside the aggregation of content. Okay, so the content, if you look at the XML, so this is the content aggregation for the page. So now with the help of add content method, I can add the content inside the content aggregation of the page. So I'll just copy this add content. So I'll write opage dot add content, and inside the add content, what you need to add? See, inside the add content, you need to add O content. So what is this O content? O content means any control which is from sap.ui.core.control, right? So it is a parent class for all the controls. So it means any control you can add it. Okay. So now I will add it button, O button. Okay. This is how you need to add. So once you add, you will see the button now. Can you see now? Okay.
Yes.
Guys, this is the basic syntax. Okay, so because see from XML, you don't need to do anything. Already you're adding, you're declaring the control inside the aggregation, right? So that's why you don't need to do anything. But in case of controller, right, you need to tell the controller where you need to add that button control. Whether you need to add that control inside the aggregation of content or page or inside the footer. And then how you can tell that with the help of methods which are available for the specific controls.
Hello, Avik.
Okay, fine.
Hello.
So guys, can you try one? So one assignment I will give. So you have to design a simple form. This simple form we have designed, right? Can you design same simple form inside the controller? And after that, at the end, you just need to add that simple form by following this syntax or by following this step. Okay. Instead of O button, you need to add O simple form. Will that be fine? Okay, so just
Yeah.
yeah.
Vivek, so means in practical means when we are working on the project, so that time also we have to define in the controller only, or we just have to define in XML in that view.
XML only you prefer. Okay.
Yeah,
Maximum you try to shift on XML. You don't shift it on controller, then it would be very hard
very
because
difficult.
for sure you need to write lot of lines of code, and then for sure it would be more complex than writing the code inside the XML, right?
So what is the purpose of writing in the, because in controller we can define the methods and that functions and we can perform some
Yes,
certain
you
actions.
can. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can define the functions, you can define the validations,
Yeah. So
or you
why
can also specify. Mhm.
so why we need to define the button in controller? Like what is the
No, that only I'm telling you, na, based according to the condition, instead of button, let's say you don't want the button, you want to add other control. Instead of button, you want segmented button.
okay.
How you will add that inside the XML? Can you add
Okay.
the if condition here?
Yeah. Got it. Got
That
it.
okay, so
Yes.
in that case, we can prefer controller. And then
Mm-hmm.
one more thing is there like dynamic, let's say you
Button.
want to create a dynamic page.
Got it.
Okay, so that case also you can prefer a controller.
Yeah. So when we click
Hello,
on one,
Avik.
that
Mm-hmm.
time the other button should get disabled. So that kind of functionality we have to write the code in the controller, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so this controller button you are saying, suppose we have one button on
Mm-hmm.
clicking of one button, another button should be displayed. So for that another button, we need to write the logic here.
Yes, yes.
Dynamically, we want to show that button appearing and disappearing.
If you want to add the logic, right?
Yes, yes.
So dynamically, if you want to add, you can directly add if condition.
Yes, if
Means, for
one button
example,
is
if
clicked,
the
we
two
can write
buttons
this
are
logic.
already, yes, you need to get the
Okay,
ID
okay.
of this button, and after that you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
write it.
yeah, yeah.
But
Got
again, it will make the process more complex.
it.
If that controls are directly available in the XML, so that would be easy. Okay. So for this, all this concept for getting the ID and all, what we should try, instead of going with the IDs, we should go with the models. Okay. If you are binding the models properly, you don't need ID of any control. Same thing can be achieved with the help of models. So we'll see that model concept maybe in next session, right? Okay. So we'll see that how we can reduce these steps. So far it's clear that declaration of controls from the controller file.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So the assignment is you have to design simple form inside controller.js file. And after that, you need to add that simple form into the page content. That is your assignment. That is your fourth assignment. Okay. Okay, fine. Now let's go back to our XML. So let me, yeah, let it be uncomment, let it be commented. So now let me go back to here. So I will just comment out this code also here. Okay. So now if you want to load the XML fragment here, how you will load that? So for loading the XML fragment, you will write where. So now I just wanted to load this fragment in the XML. Sorry. So now from controller we will load the fragment, right? So for loading the fragment from the controller, so there is a syntax that we need to follow. The syntax is where o fragment, or right, user fragment equal to sap.ui.xml fragment. Okay, so this is our XML fragment which we have. You can search for XML. Sorry. Okay, so there are a couple of ways to load the fragment. Okay, if you look at the method, we have fragment.load. So the one which I'm going to show you, right? So that is also one more way, and still you can use that. You can also use load method, or you can call that sap.ui.xml fragment. Okay, both cases you can use. So I'm going to write this sap.ui.xml fragment, and in that we have ID, fragment name, and this. So now I'm providing views ID here. This dot get view dot get ID. Second is the path of the fragment name, and the third one is the this that I'm telling this fragment file to use this current controller. And in the second parameter, you can directly pass the path. You can copy this path from here. Okay. And now inside, now you can follow the same syntax. Okay, so you can just copy this. Okay, instead of O button, you can add it as O user fragment. Okay, so everything is commented right in this. Yeah. Now it should load our fragment. It says element sap.io.layout.from.simple form element Button 1 is not valid for aggregation contain.
ID is missing. Oh, no, no, no.
Where?
Get view dot get ID. No, that is we have already defined the location. Hmm.
Why it is giving for button? Anything I have missed here?
Which button?
Okay, let me see why it is giving error first of all.
What error is coming?
That only it's surprise error. Let it reload. Let's see. We can reload and we can check. Okay, looks like we have some error here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now, guys, one thing which I told you, right? Fragment is not the control instance. Okay. Whatever you declare inside the fragment, if you are loading the fragment, it will only return the content of, it will only return the content. It won't return its own instance. Means if you are going to call this dot get view, it will return the view. But for fragment, there is no thing like that. Okay, if you are going to call the fragment, right? In return, it will give you the content of the fragment, not its own instance. So if you hover on this O fragment, right? Go to the console and see now here. Okay, you will see form here, right? First one is the sign up form and the second one is the button. Okay, once you add it, why it is giving error, that I'm thinking now. Button 1 is not valid for aggregation content.
In XML, you have not commented that button part. Is it XML? The button text get fragment. Is that could be the issue?
Okay, what? 1 second, let me check that.
Here also handle
Okay, let's see now once.
because that might be searching in the controller for the.
No. In controller on it, we have no. This see the all the methods it won't trigger. If there is any syntax, error, right? Then
Mhm.
only it will throw the error.
No, but it is not like that you have defined a button in the XML, but we don't find any function related to that in controller. That kind of error will not get, right?
And now it is coming. So looks like the problem is
The button part.
yes, I got it actually. Okay. So one thing is there that we need to take care always. So you are adding two contents, right? You are adding two contents at the same time, but why this is happening? Okay, let me try to add VBox here. Okay, I think we need to cover one more topic in this with the dialogues, fragments with dialogues. That is also very important. Now
So
we
the
have
output is
only.
coming.
Hmm?
So the output is coming now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See.
Okay. VBox is.
Okay. So you do one thing, means, yeah, one thing we can do every time you're declaring inside the fragment, right? You create a single container. Like in this case, I'm adding VBox, and inside a single only you can add all other controls, and then you can display that. Then you can add that content on the view. Okay. It won't give any error in that case.
So you mean to say that button was considered for in another content section.
Yes. Yes.
So we cannot have more than one content in a single view.
Right. Right. Okay. You just use one container, and in that you can add a couple of controls. What, how many controls you want to add, you can add it. Okay, just follow this one. Fine. So there are various controls like VBox is there, Edgebox is there, vertical layout, horizontal layout, Flexbox, panel.
So vertical box, what does it do actually? What is a
VBox means what it will do. For example, this is your simple form, and after once your simple form is ending, then you want button to be displayed after the simple form in the next line. So this VBox means a vertical box. Whatever controls you add it, right, it will be displayed vertically, one by one after the other. That also in new line, not in the same line. Okay, that's
uh,
what we use the vertical box, VBox.
but but if we have a requirement that I want to see the first name and the last name, means or let's take it this example, first name and the password should be beside of each other, and
Hmm.
fragment info should be below.
That you can do it with the help of simple form. Okay, that would be inside the simple form. But after the simple form, you're adding one more control as a button. So simple form will be considered as one control, and button
Mm.
will be considered as another control. So two are different. And then what VBox will do, it will make sure that after simple form only the button should appear. That also in the new line. Okay.
Okay, so
So
we
if
can
you're
define.
saying that, mhm.
Sorry, sir. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, if you want that first name and last name exactly on the same line, so that that conf means that part I have already shown you, right, in earlier session. You can add the column cell, columns Excel.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
automatically that will be defined.
Mhm. Yes, yes, you
Okay.
have to. No, I just got confused with that V box that you told that every input that label part will come one below there because of the
No.
vertical.
See, simple form will work according to the properties that you defined for the simple form. VBox, it won't consider the content inside the simple form, because inside the content like label and input field, for that parent is the simple form. And now simple form's parent is VBox, right? So simple form will control the child which the controls which are available inside the simple form. VBox will only control whatever the controls you have defined inside the VBox, like simple form and the button.
Okay, so we can define simple form inside a V box and we can achieve this requirement one beside each other.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, fine now. Now let's see the fragments with dialog. So any questions in this? Can we create one more fragment for the dialog? Guys, 1 minute. Huh? Just give me a minute. Hello. Yeah. Okay, guys, let's do one thing now. We close this. Okay, so now the fragments with dialog. One second, guys. I'm not sure why I'm getting more calls today.
Avik, you are speaking on mute, I think so.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I was actually, I was getting one call. Sorry. Okay, so now let's see the fragments with the dialog. Okay, so this fragment control, these fragments are, it will be handy when you want to use some pop-up controls. Okay, so mostly the pop-up controls like message box. Okay, the message box, you don't have to use it in the fragment, that you can directly declare it inside the control. But the other controls like dialog box. Okay, for sure you guys have seen the dialog, means in couple of UI5 application a pop-up will open which has which will have lot of content in the pop-up. So that kind of controls also will be handy if you're using the fragments, because if I take the if I consider the example of a dialog box. Okay, so dialog is one kind of a control, a pop-up control, which will be opened, it's not that much handy with the view controls. Means if you consider, if you compare a view with the other controls like button and all, so that button controls and all, you can directly place it inside the view without any problem, right? You can declare that control and your view will be created. But if you're declaring the dialog, right? If you're directly adding the dialog won't be displayed, because for opening the dialog you have to call close method. Sorry, for opening the dialog you have to call open method of dialog. Then only your dialog will be opened. Okay, you cannot directly simply add a code of dialog inside the view.xml file. That won't work actually. So for such controls, you can use the fragment. You can prefer the fragment. Okay, because a fragment is a reusable component, and then fragment as we have seen that it doesn't have its own control instance, right? If you're going to load the fragment, in return it will return the dialog box. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's create a one more fragment file for the dialog box. Okay, so this is your fragment file, which is of open dialog and which is of extension .fragment.xml. Just press on OK. Okay, so now your fragment is open. Now the next thing is same. You can add the same code what we have. We have it inside the user login. Paste it. Now you just remove the V box. Okay, now you will add a dialog box. Okay, so now I'll go to the samples, search for the dialog. Okay, so this is your dialog box. Okay, then this is a resizable dialog box. Let's say you want to resize it. So that also possible. Okay, simply close dialog with responsive. Okay, so all these are dialog controls. So for such kind of controls, you can prefer the fragment. Why? I'm going to explain it now. Okay, so first declare the dialog. Why it's not bringing suggestions? So for adding a close button to the dialog, so there is an aggregation of end button and begin button. So I'm adding a but. Let's display the text. Okay, fine. So I need one more method which will close the dialog box. Okay. So before we close now first of all, let's load this fragment. So we have declared the fragment right here. So for loading the fragment, I'll declare one variable here. Sorry, or button in the XML. Okay, so how to load the fragment? Same syntax. Whatever we have written on the top, right? Same you can follow. Okay, but only one change which I will tell you or which I will suggest you to do. 1 second, what is happening? Okay, one change you can do. So instead of var keyword, right, you can use this keyword. So before that, I will add if not this dot open dialog, then it should load and then it should open the dialog. Okay, and instead of user login, I'll write dialog. Fine. Okay, so what I have written, why I have used this? So this means it is your controller level variable. Okay, so this means whatever variable you define it on the this level, it can be accessible in any method. Okay, but if you are going to declare a variable with the var keyword like this, okay, so it's available only to that specific method. It won't be available after you cannot access that variable in any other method. Okay, but if you are declaring that variable on the this level, this means it's pointing out to the current controller, in this case, the entire controller. Okay, so if you're going to declare a variable on this, so it can be accessible in any method or any function. Okay, so now I have added one condition. By default, when I declare this this dot open dialog, it for sure it will not have any value. So that's why this condition will be true. And after that, what it will do, it will load this fragment. And then that fragment will be stored inside this variable. And after that, once this fragment is loaded, then I will open the, what I will open. See this fragment, in the end, it will, as soon as your fragment file is loaded, right? So that fragment, it will return the content of dialog. And then for opening the dialog box, we have the open method. Okay. So if you want to open the dialog box, we have to call open method. So that's why that content is available inside this dot open dialog. And then after that, we are opening, we are calling the open method of dialog box, and it will open the dialog box. Okay, let's do one thing. Let me reload this pass once. I think my session is out. Okay, so let's run this and let me show you what I want to say. Preview. Okay. Now see, till now the fragment file is not loaded. Okay. The fragment file for the dialog box. What is the name of that fragment file? Open dialog, right? So that file you will see it will not load in the network. Why? Because we didn't call it right as of now. So it will not load, and it is not part of you as of now. And I'll show you. Okay, I can just search here. Okay, if I search here, right, fragment, only one fragment file is loaded as of now. User login.fragment.xml. Why it is loaded? Because the code, the code for loading this fragment is already added. Okay, so that's why we are able to load this fragment. But what about this dialog box? Why it is not loaded? Because as of now, it is not part of view. Okay, so now if I want to load this fragment, I'll click on this open dialog. Okay, so before I click, let me put a breakpoint here. So see now, as soon as I click on open dialog, so if you hover on this, right, this dot open dialog, it will be nothing. Okay, nothing will be there in that. Okay, so nothing is there as of now in this open dialog. So after that, it will go to this function. Oh, what mistake I have made? Can you see the mistake what I've made, guys? I kept the same function name. I kept the same variable name. Okay, so now I will just clear. I'll click on open dialog. Okay, so now if you hover on this dot dialog, it is undefined. Yes, for sure, nothing is there as of now in this variable. So it will go into that if condition, and now it will load that fragment. Okay, as soon as you execute, right, you will see one file. Can you see now file? Open dialog. Okay, so now this fragment file is loaded. So now after that, what we are getting in this dot dialog, it will not return fragment instance. It instead of that, it will return the dialog. Can you see now? See, it is returning the dialog. Okay. After that, once you get the dialog, I'm calling open method. Open method of the dialog. See, is it opening the dialog now? Okay, this is how we have to if you're going to work with the pop-up controls, so we have to use fragments. Then only it would be very easy to handle those controls. Otherwise, unnecessarily you cannot declare that controls directly inside view.xml file. You have to declare that control inside the controller.js file manually, like how we have declared this button control, right? In the same process, you have to follow and you have to declare that dialog control. Okay. If you want the dialog control to be displayed, if you want the dialog control to be declared in the XML format, so that you have to declare it inside the fragment file. Okay. You cannot declare that element directly inside the view.xml file. Okay. That won't work. Okay. So what we have done here inside the controller file. So just we have added one condition. If this variable is not declared, if nothing is there inside this variable, so I'm going to load this fragment. Okay, and then after that, I'm going to open the fragment. Okay, the next time again, if I'm going to click on this variable, open dialog. Okay, as soon as I press on that open dialog button, so next time it won't load this fragment because that fragment is already loaded and it is already available inside the view. So we don't have to load that again. Okay, instead of that, you can directly, so this line number 71, it will be executed rather than executing this. Okay, let me add one more function for closing. So then I'll put a breakpoint and I can explain you. Okay, so same I'm going to use as this is this I can directly write close. Okay, let it reload now. Okay, so as soon as I press on open dialog, so by default it is undefined. So it will go now inside and it will load the fragment. See, it's loading. Still pending. I don't know why it's taking so long. Yeah. After that, okay, so your dialog box is open. Now if I want to close it, right? Click on close. So this dot dialog means it is actual dialog control and it will call the close method. Okay, your dialog is closed. So now the next time if you're opening this, if you look at this dot dialog, it already has the content dialog box. So it won't load dialog for the next time. Directly it will open the dialog because that dialog control it's already available inside the view. So it won't load the fragment file. It will open the existing one which is already available. Okay. So if you look at the network, so there is no fragment file which is loaded twice, right? It is only loaded once. Okay, so the fragment file for sure we need it only. It should be loaded only once. Why we should load fragment file again and again? Don't need it. Okay, it is not required at all. See it. Let me clear. It won't load actually. See, it's not loading. Okay, guys, any questions in this? You can ask me. Okay, if you're not able to understand, if you want that something to be explained here, just ask me now. I think it's already 12:56, and then we have covered most of the topics today.
I
Vic,
think we'll
actually,
practice and
Yes.
we'll practice, and if any question rises, we'll.
Okay. 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 That's fine. Yeah. You can. What I will do, I'll just share the source code of this file. Okay. In this project, in the chat itself, I'll ping you now. Just download it here itself. You can just refer the
Okay.
source code. 1 second. I'm just exporting this web app or this. Yeah, 1 second. Let me delete. Okay, so now if I export, sorry, if I download, then it would be hardly 334 KB file. And this is a tar file. Okay, it won't be extracted. You need to import this project into your BAS, then it will work. Otherwise, if you want that only other files, so I can share. But this tar file, you can directly import it into your project, like file, and you can just open. Okay, you can click on open. Sorry. File, new project from template. No. Upload files is there. Yeah, or otherwise go to the terminal. Sorry, view, find command, welcome. And inside the welcome page, right, you can directly, there is an option. Okay. Import files from your dev space or files or folder. Whatever you want to do, you can do it directly from here. Okay. So you can directly select that file and import. Start from template if you do, so again it will take you from the start. Or there is an option upload files directly. Okay. You directly right click on your workspace. Let's say in this case, if you already have the workspace, right, you directly click on it and you directly add upload files. Okay. Okay, guys, any questions in this? In the controller for the dialogues with the fragment or the fragment with dialogues, XML fragments. We have seen four things today. The lifecycle methods. After that, loading the fragment from the controller, loading the fragment from the view. Okay, and also we have also seen how the controls can be designed in the controller. Okay, so you utilize today's day. Okay, practice it and let me know if you have any questions. Okay, tomorrow maybe before we start with the session, before that you can just ping me if you have any questions. We can discuss that tomorrow. Is that clear, guys?
Yeah, Vic.
Yes, yes, sure.
I know it's little bit confusing. It will be okay. Okay, after a couple of days it will be okay, but you have to practice it. You have to see the syntax. Okay, I'll tell you one more thing. If you go to the documentation, right, you can search for dialogues. Okay, you will have one walkthrough here, dialogues and fragments. Okay, so here there is already a source code. Okay, they have shown you, they have used the different method, load fragment. I have used the different method. Okay, just for the explanation purpose, I have used different method. Whatever way you want to try, you just need to try. But going forward in the future, if you have the requirement that you have to use the fragment, so whether the step which I've shown you that you can use, or otherwise this one, the one which they have used, that also you can use. Okay, that's not a problem. But at the end, the thing is you have to remember. Okay, you at least you should know the syntax, how they are loading the fragment. That is important. Okay. Okay, guys, fine. Okay, 1 second, wait. I'll just ping you that project in the chat. Oh, there is no. Okay, there is no extension to upload. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll upload this project in Drive. Okay, from there you can access. Fine. Okay, guys, if
Okay.
you have any questions, we can discuss now, or we can wrap up this call for today. No questions, right?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay then. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.